Hello, I'm Mick Ralphs, and welcome to Gibson. Well, the unreleased tracks are from the first two album sessions. There's different versions of, Can't Get Enough and Feel Like Making Love. Apparently there's one of Can't Get Enough with an organ, which I can't remember at all, but it was probably me because I probably played organ on it. But when you're making an album, that always happens, You do a take and then you say, let's do another one, Might be a different tempo, might have different instruments on it, and then when you come to put it all together, you whittle through what you think or the band thinks is the best take, and that's the one that goes on the record. So I'm sure every band has got alternative versions of whatever songs they're known for, As regards the future of Bad Company, you can never say never. I know Paul's taking a bit of time off this year. Simon lives in America. But maybe next year. I don't think it's going to happen this year, but it's always possible. We didn't actually plan to have a band. I was working with Paul, writing songs. That was our initial idea. He was going to do some of the songs that I couldn't do with Mott because he liked them, and we were going to make a record. And then Simon came to Paul's house one day out of nowhere and said, "What are we doing?" And I said, "Well, we're just kicking some ideas around, possibly going to make an album." And he said, "Well, do you mind if I sit in?" So I said to Paul, all we need now is a bass player, and we've got a band. So it evolved very naturally. We didn't plan it. It was all quite accidental, I suppose. Lucky, really. The first album, we'd written pretty much all of it, because I'd been working with Paul with songs that I had from the Mott days, like Can't Get Enough, Ready for Love, Moving On, and we'd written some stuff together. And whilst we were looking for a bass player, we routined the songs on a daily basis, the three of us, Simon, myself and Paul, and whoever we were trying out different bass players, whoever was down for the day. So when we came to record them, we must have been playing them every day for about 4 or 5 months. So we knew them pretty well inside out, and we'd worked out the arrangements, so it was very quick, the recording process, once we'd found Boz, the bass player, because we'd done all the hard work before we went to record them. Well, with Can't Get Enough, I'd written it in an open G tuning, like the same that Keith Richards uses, which is a nice tuning. It's good for open tuning, for slide. But when I played the song to Paul, he said, "I love the song." He said, "But can you change the key?" So we fiddled around on the guitar, and eventually he wanted us to get in the key of C. So I thought, how the hell do you do that? Because it's a lot higher. So I strung a guitar up to open C, and hoping that the strings wouldn't break because it was so tight. Anyway, I learned that I had to use thinner gauge strings to avoid the breakage, but it had a unique sound which you can't get in it on a regular guitar. That open C is a unique sound, and because it was in C, that's the key that it ended up with. So I was lumbered with playing it in open C on stage. But it does have that unique sound, and a lot of people would say, "Come and jam with us, we'll do Can't Get Enough," and I hadn't got the heart to explain to them I can't play it. Well, I could play it in regular tuning, but it just didn't sound the same. I like open C or open tuning for writing songs, because it gives you a different perspective on the guitar. I get fed up with regular tuning, so I'll try something different, and an idea might pop out from it. With the band like Bad Company, you are not restricted, is the wrong word, but you are governed by the fact that there's only one guitar, bass, drums, and voice. But when you're in the studio, you can add another guitar if you want. I wasn't a big fan of overdoing or overproducing anything. I wanted to keep it simple, but there's a solo on Feel Like Making Love, which is a harmony guitar part, which sort of suits the song, so I felt it was warranted. And I could actually play it on my, without, all in one go, as you say. But I think at the time it was layered, it was laid down one part, then the other part, then the other part. Very simple stuff, but it just sort of gives a bit of colour particularly to that track. I've always liked doing little things like that, little signature bits, little licks, little riffs. Nothing it should never dominate the song. It should always be part of it and complement it. I used to collect a lot of guitars over the years because we were in America a lot and there was loads of guitars everywhere and they weren't so expensive. And then I'd get about 30 of it, and then I get bored and get rid of some and start again. It's the hunt, I think, is more exciting than the actual acquisition. So you'd always be looking for the perfect Les Paul and never find it, but half the fun was looking for it. But now I don't have that many guitars anymore. I've sort of gone off the idea of collecting because everybody else is doing it, I suppose. It became a bit of a thing, you know, I've got a 59 and all this. It became a bit precious, so I thought, nah, I'm not going to do that. So I just use modern guitars, you know, because I think, particularly Gibsons, the one I use, they're equally as good as the old ones. I mean, not all old guitars are great, and not all new guitars are crap. So the Gibson custom line I use are fantastic guitars, because I bumped into a guy called Tom Murphy, who I think is still at the custom shop, and he's a great fella, and we were both sort of like trying to make the reissues as accurate to the old ones as possible with little tiny modifications, which most people wouldn't notice, apart from a couple of nuts like me and him. But they're pretty accurate now, the reissues. I think they're really good guitars. The one I use all the time is a 58 reissue, but it's chambered. It's hollowed out to a degree, which I didn't know existed until I found one by chance in London about 10 years ago, or 8 years ago. And it really, I like the lightweight, but I also like the sound. It's got a bit of an acoustic quality to it, a bit like a 335. Got a bit of air around it, so I like that. It's got a sweet tone, and I don't know why Gibson, come on Gibson, don't advertise them more, because they're great guitars. I know you can order them, but they do actually make a production run of them. They've got a CR prefix to the serial number. Like an R9, it's just got a 9. The chamber's got a CR in front of them, so that's, if you want to know if it's a chambered and you can't tell, you just look on the back by the number. And there you go. Well, Leslie West, when we first went to America in the Mott days, we were supporting anybody, playing anywhere we could go. I remember it's funny because we didn't have flight cases. The luggage used to come off the carousel, and you'd see a Marshall amp come thundering down and then a drum. We didn't know, you know, what to do. We had never been on tour in America. But anyway, we were doing a gig with Traffic and Mountain and Mott. We were opening up. And it's the first time I'd seen Leslie West or heard him play, and I was blown away because he had a little Les Paul Jr. It looked like a badge on him. He's a huge guy. But the sound was huge, you know. I'm sure you're aware of Mountain. And I became a big fan. We got friendly, and I was right, I've got to have one of those guitars. You know, the old single cutaway Les Paul Jr., which I used for years throughout Mott. Just that one P90 sound, big fat sound. So he really got me into the Les Paul Jr. P90 sound. Brian Johnson, a good mate of mine from AC/DC, the singer, lives in Florida. And at the time I was living in Florida near him, so we became friends. And he invited me over to his house, and, you know, as you do, go out and play on the water, have a barbecue, whatever. And he had a few guitars, and he was vintage guitars, and he doesn't actually play that much, so he wondered if I wanted to buy any of them. And the one I really liked was an Everly Brothers, which had been signed by Don Everly and Phil Everly on the bottom bout of the guitar. And because he's, you know, a really friendly guy, he said, "Oh, you can take it on tour, you man." You know, I said, "Well, I can't really. It's yours. You know, I don't like to." He said, "Oh, it's all right." So I took it on tour. Of course, during the course of the tour, I'd get it out and play it every night in my hotel. I wouldn't take it on stage. So I was cleaning it one day, watching the TV, not really. I suddenly realised I'd rubbed out part of Phil Everly's name. It was like Phil Ev or something. I thought, oh, bugger. So I decided to rub it all out. And I thought, well, I've got to get rid of the other name now. It's stupid having like one Everly Brothers name on it. So I had to tell him. I said, "Look, I'm terribly sorry." He said, "I do want to buy your guitar, though." I said, because I didn't want to give it back to him anyway. But if I hadn't liked it, I would have had to explain what happened. But it didn't alter the value to me. It might have been to a collector, but no, it was a lovely guitar. So, accident. That was an accident. Sorry, Brian. Anyway, I bought the guitar off him, so it's all's good. The dual guitar thing, I can't get enough. Because I did the original demo when I was in Mott, when I lived in a flat in Shepherd's Bush. And I worked out the two parts and recorded it on a little Revox thing, as you did in those days. And I remember when we came to do it, Paul said, you've got to put that in as part of the song. Because I just did it because I didn't know we were going to do it back then. It was just for Mott. So we did it, and but Paul wanted to play the harmony, so I remember having to show him the harmony line. And when we did the first album at Headley Grange, we actually did the whole thing in one take live. So I showed him that he wanted to, so he played the harmony part, and I played the basic one. But originally, I'd done them both. And I thought, well, yeah, good fun, you know. So we did it live instead of doing one at a time, and we just took it. And it wasn't perfect, but we just said, yeah, that's great. It's captured the moment, you know. That's what I like to do in recording. It doesn't have to be perfect as long as it captures the moment. And that's what it's all about.